Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conflict Voices, your go-to source for insightful discussions and information about the Israel-Palestinian conflict. I'm your host, Asaf. Today, to be honest, we had an hectic day. We tried to find someone to speak with us about all the current events, the elections in Iran. We do have a debate this week with Biden and Trump, the Houthis, what is going on in Syria, in Lebanon. And we have with us Jason Brodsky. I'm very pleased to have you here. Thank you very much for jumping on the call in short notice. How are you?
It's great to be with you, Asaf.
Is everything okay? You're good?
Yes, everything's great. Thank you.
Amazing. I was thinking I thought to start this conversation with an open question as we just spoke about. Can you tell me a little bit about the situation in general with everything that is surrounding us?
Well, I think right now we're at a very big crisis point in the region. We are seeing the Islamic Republic of Iran's unification of the theater's strategy really take hold in its battle against Israel. Really in the post-October 7th massacre context, it has really been the first time that Iran has, in a coordinated manner, orchestrated this multi-front conflict with Israel in such a comprehensive manner. And, before, as many of your listeners may be aware, in previous Gaza conflicts, we didn't have the degree or the extent of participation across the full range of Iran's proxies and partners throughout the region, mostly, in 2012 and in other years, there was, Hamas firing rockets at Israel, Palestinian Islamic Jihad firing rockets at Israel. Maybe there was sporadic rocket fire from Lebanon, particularly with Hamas militants there. But in the post-October 7th context, we have Hezbollah joining the front in a big way. We have Iraqi militias, we have the Houthis, we have Syrian militias. And so this is a very complex situation right now in the region.
Yeah. Can you maybe tell us some more information about, for example, the Houthis and the Iraq? Do you have some numbers about what they're currently doing in regard to the situation in Israel?
Well, the Houthis have had a two-pronged strategy, I would say. First is that they have really hampered maritime traffic at a vital global checkpoint in the Red Sea area. And it has driven up shipping costs. It has caused global disruptions, diversions in shipping lanes. And that has been a real challenge and an affront to the freedom of navigation in the region. And that is a core U.S. security interest. So it has been, the Houthis have been challenging that interest in order to exact a price for the U.S. support for Israel in the Gaza conflict. And I think it's, in a way, you can think about it in the sense that Ayatollah Khamenei had called on regional countries to formulate an economic boycott against Israel. Now, many regional countries were not prepared to do that. So the Houthis are, in essence, hosting a de facto economic boycott on Israel through these kinds of attacks on maritime shipping. And then you'll also remember that the Houthis have been firing rockets and missiles, I should say, and drones at Israel throughout this conflict since October 7th. So that has been what the Houthis have been trying to do as they've entered the battlefield.
Yeah. We have seen those kind of acts or attacks from Syria, right, and other militant groups. Is there any difference between those groups in regard to Israel?
I think that the militias in Iraq and Syria are, in many respects, the closest to the Islamic Republic of Iran and the IRGC. A lot of them are what are called IRGC manufactured militias. And those are really under the influence heavily of the IRGC. And so they take their orders from the IRGC commanders who are stationed in Iraq and Syria, respectively. And so the tempo of the battlefield is really informed in many respects from directives from Tehran.
Okay. And what about the elections in Iran? Do you think that it's going to have any effect on those matters?
It won't make any difference. And why I say that is because in the Islamic Republic of Iran's system, the supreme leader is the strategic decision maker. And he is the constitutional commander in chief. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps reports to him and follows his orders. So who is the president and who is not the president will really make no material difference in this theater. The president is an implementer of the supreme leader's strategic decision making. And so while you're seeing there have been 6 candidates who have been approved to run in Iran's presidential, I like to call it a selection as opposed to an election. Because Iran does not have free and fair elections like we do in the West and like you would do in Israel. And so this is this is the dynamic that the Iranian people face. And so they have 6 candidates. While they have some of them have different outlooks, different styles, certainly different backgrounds. A lot of those differences, at the end of the day, do not make a fundamental change or impact on the Islamic Republic's relations with the United States and with the international community, and especially with respect to the Islamic Republic's regional strategy, because that regional strategy is driven by the Supreme Leader and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
So why do they do those elections? It's just a display for the Western world?
I think it is a show. A lot of Iranians call it an election circus. And I think that it is meant to come up with, as an attempt by the regime to formulate a sense of legitimacy for a system that has no legitimacy. And so I think that we saw during the Masa Amini protests in 2022 and 2023, Iranians around the country were showcasing that this regime has no legitimacy, that there is an unbridgeable chasm between state and society. And they have come to the conclusion, Iranians, that it doesn't matter if a reformist president is selected or a hardliner or conservative is selected. The fundamentals of the Islamic Republic do not change. Their standard of living does not improve. And the situation in many respects has gotten only worse. So many Iranians have come to the conclusion that the system has to be overthrown and changed. And that's driving a lot of the boycotts of the vote this time around.
The boycotts on the elections?
The elections, a lot of Iranians will not vote in this election. Because they think it's a show, and they think that by participating, it would lend a sense of legitimacy to a system that has lost all legitimacy in the eyes of many of its people.
And from what I read, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's something that increases lately, unwillingness of people to take part in those elections. Or it is something that...
I think that there has been a growing fearlessness among the Iranian public to challenge the mores of the Islamic Republic and the pillars of the Islamic Republic. And there's a growing movement of civil disobedience, especially among women who have been challenging the hijab. You see really unbelievable scenes of Iranian women, very brave Iranian women, walking around the streets of major cities without a hijab on. And that is something that is a huge change from just a couple of years ago. So I think that that is that there's a growing sense that there is an unbridgeable gap between the system and its people. And that is only going to continue to grow, in my view, in the years ahead.
I'm trying to grasp the situation. That's what, and afterwards I would love to ask you about the future. But before jumping to the future, So currently we see, as we said, and as you said, a lot of groups, militant groups that basically are attacking Israel from everywhere. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit about why we see those acts? And this, I imagine, again, Israel didn't provoke, I imagine, Yemen or Syria or Iraq,
Mm-hmm.
right? Can you elaborate about the reasons for those attacks?
Yes, this is all relating to the unification of the front's grand strategy of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which the late Qasem Soleimani had developed as he was commander of the Quds Force for a long period of time before the United States eliminated him in 2020. And so this is a strategy that has continued under his successor, Ismail Ghani. But I would say that Ismail Ghani has coordinated the militias that Soleimani grew and expanded during his tenure to an unprecedented degree. So this is very much a continuum here, and we have seen the Islamic Republic only double down in its approach. You are right to point out that Israel didn't do anything to the Houthis. Israel didn't do anything to many of these militias or many of these groups throughout the region that are trying to attack it and trying to aim at vital, sensitive points in the country. But the Islamic Republic has a very consistent grand strategy since 1979 to try to eradicate the state of Israel. And I will say that what Hezbollah has done in the north of Israel by displacing over 60,000 Israelis is an attempt to shrink the borders of the state of Israel. And no other country in the world would ever tolerate a terrorist organization doing that to its people. And so that is why you are seeing growing demands and calls, and I would say momentum as well, for there to be more aggressive action taken by Israel against Hezbollah so that it is pushed back from endangering a lot of these border communities.
Yeah, actually, if you mentioned Hezbollah, so what do you think about the situation in the north of Israel? Can you maybe start with generally explain what is happening in the north, and what I would love to hear your opinion about it.
Sure. Well, as I was mentioning, Hezbollah has effectively displaced tens of thousands of Israelis, and that has caused immense disruption, dislocation, economic problems as well. And also, there have been very significant fires in a lot of these areas because of the attacks from Hezbollah on Israeli land. And so that has contributed to a huge disruption in the state of Israel. And this is intolerable for any government in Israel. So Israel cannot be forced to live in a situation where it's going to be fearing a repeat of October 7th of what happened in the south in the north with Hezbollah. And Hezbollah, by the way, has many of the same tactics that Hamas does. Although they have different histories, there are a lot of commonalities with respect to their coordination with the IRGC. And Hezbollah decided in the early days after October 7th to start attacking the state of Israel in support of Hamas after Hamas launched the October 7th massacre, which killed over 1,200 people and also injured countless others and took others hostage. So Hezbollah decided to start lobbing drones, missiles at the state of Israel, and Israel, as any country has, the right to defend itself, has been trying to push Hezbollah back and degrade its ability to continue to threaten the citizens of the state of Israel. So that's been the dynamic since October 7th. But it has now come to a point where, given the displacement in the north, and given, I would say, the winding down of operations in Gaza to a less intense phase, with respect to the operation there, Israel is rightfully trying to focus more on the north and how to secure those areas for Israelis so that they can go back to their homes and not allow a terrorist organization to effectively shrink the borders of the state. And that is the situation right now that it faces. But the complication is that you're not dealing with a normal government in Lebanon. A normal government in Lebanon has sovereignty over its borders, over its armed forces. That's not the case in Lebanon. Lebanon is effectively held hostage. The state institutions of Lebanon are effectively held hostage by a foreign terrorist organization, Hezbollah, that is in many respects controlled by the Islamic Republic of Iran. And its decision-making is subservient and held hostage to that of Tehran, not Beirut. So, and if you speak to many Lebanese, they don't want war with Israel. But they are held hostage because of Hezbollah's domination of the state. You see this even with the Beirut airport. There was a report over the weekend in the Telegraph, and this should come as nothing new to many of your viewers, that Beirut airport has been the storage site of advanced Iranian weaponry, explosives, and Iran has essentially used a civilian airport to camouflage its arms transfers, and that is something that again is nothing new. It's been going on for years, but it just shows Hezbollah's domination over all of the state institutions in Lebanon, and that is kind of the challenge that the Lebanese face. And what has happened is Nasrallah has linked any kind of quiet in the north to a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, and since that deal is not going anywhere in the immediate future, this situation in the north is going to continue, and that's why Israel is rightfully, in my view, focusing now on the threat from Hezbollah.
What do you think Hezbollah and Iran wants from this part of Israel, or what Israel want to do in the north of? Should Israel attack? What do you think about what should Israel do, or what do you think about what we'll see next, maybe?
Well, I think that you're going to see a continued escalatory spiral between both sides. Israel's going to be hitting targets that are deeper in Lebanon, and Lebanon is also going to be hitting targets that are deeper in Israel, and it's also going to aim at civilian population centers. 2006 Lebanon war, we've seen this movie before, and Hezbollah is a much more capable force than Hamas. It is much more advanced armaments. It has more its fighters are more battle hardened, I would say, in many respects, especially given their experience in Syria. So you're going to see it's a very complicated battle that would occur between Israel and Hezbollah, and it's something that's very different in many respects from that which Israel faced against Hamas. It's a much more advanced and capable foe.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what you're telling me, I'm going to rephrase a little bit. So correct me if I'm rephrasing too much. But you say, obviously, the situation in Hamas is not going to end soon. Not obviously, but probably. In the north, we're going to see more attacks from Hezbollah, from Israel. We're going to see maybe deeper attacks and with more casualties from both sides. The elections in Iran are not really going to affect anything or to change anything. It looks like we're going to a war.
I think that's where the trend lines are headed. No one wants war, but I think that this situation has become untenable for many Israelis right now. I think and I have to tell you this, Asaf, but I think many Israelis are in the mindset that we can't have or be complacent with a pre-October 7th mindset that they had with respect to Hamas, and now apply that with respect to Hezbollah. And so that is a very powerful line of thinking and feeling, I think, right now in Israel. And that is why you're seeing the state turn its attention to Hezbollah in many respects.
Do you think that there is a chance for any different scenario for Hezbollah, for example, to move up to the north of Lebanon or any other situation? or you don't really see it?
Unless there's progress with the ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel in Gaza, I don't see that happening because of the linkage and the conditionality that Nasrallah has put on that getting a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, which would produce a quiet with Hezbollah. I would say this, even if there were Nasrallah were to stop firing rockets and drones and there would be quiet, that wouldn't allay this very significant security concerns that Israelis face in the north. I don't think a lot of Israelis would feel comfortable going back to their homes, even if the rockets and drones were to stop, because Hezbollah is violating UN Security Council Resolution 1701. And has been doing so for years. That's the situation that we face right now, and the Lebanese government is incapable of being able to independently enforce anything because of Hezbollah's stranglehold over the country.
Yes. What do you think, by the way, about the claims that Iran didn't really know about the October 7th attack? Because it looks like now we're going to have a war with Iran, biggest asset in the region. I don't really see the big picture here. I think I see Iran as a very strategic player. It's not like Hamas. Can you tell me about the strategy, what do they really want?
Well, you ask a very good question. I am of the view that Iran knew about the concept of attacking of a Hamas operation against Israel. They were briefed on the strategy. They were briefed on the details. They trained Hamas in many respects to undertake these kinds of operations. They armed Hamas for this reason. They might have been maybe surprised as to the timing of the attack, but not the substance of the actual strategy of what was going to happen with respect to a Hamas operation. Now, I'm not saying the Islamic Republic ordered Hamas to attack on October 7th. That's not the way it works in the relationship between Hamas and Iran. Hamas is not a proxy of Iran. Hamas is a partner of Iran. Hezbollah, as though, is a proxy of Iran. So, I think that there were a variety of I would say mutual interests that came to fruition in the lead up to October 7th. I think both Hamas and Iran sensed that Israel was internally divided and distracted because of the judicial reform and domestic politics that were producing mass protests in the country. And that reinforced an Iranian and also a Hamas perception that Israel was collapsing. And so they felt that this was the time now to strike at the state of Israel at a time when it was weakened within. And also they sensed that there was distance between Israel and the United States because, as you probably know, a very important part of Israel's deterrence is the strength of its relationship with the United States. And when the prime minister is not invited to the Oval Office and the White House in Washington, I think Israeli adversaries and U.S. adversaries, I should say, take the message. And that was a very bad signal that the United States sent to our mutual adversaries. So there was that element to it. There was also another element, which was that Hamas and Iran shared an interest in disrupting the expansion of the Abraham Accords, because as some of your listeners may remember, there was a lot of momentum before October 7th towards Saudi Arabia normalizing relations with Israel. Hamas, in its massacre, succeeded in pumping the brakes on that, at least temporarily, but has made it pumped the brakes, and it's also made it more complicated because Saudi Arabia is now probably demanding a higher price in terms of concessions for the Palestinians as a part of a normalization package with Israel. that those, in my view, were a lot of the strategic drivers for October 7th.
Yeah, you're taking us to maybe my final question about the U.S. election. But before speaking about the Biden and Trump debate, and asking you about it, I want to ask you as well about the nuclear plans of Iran. I read this week actually that it looks like Iran is on the verge of being able to make the decision if they want to proceed and to have a nuclear capabilities. Am I correct? I imagine that the elections are not going to affect this either.
Well, to take your last question first, elections will not change. The elections will not change that because, again, the supreme leader is the one who makes the decision. But I think the Iranian nuclear program is at a place what we could call Iran is a nuclear threshold state right now. It's advanced its program to such a degree that its breakout timeline is now effectively at zero. So it can develop enough enriched uranium for a nuclear bomb within a couple of days, and that within a week probably. That's right now what it is, and it is alarming. It is something that should not certainly be a top of concern for Israel and the United States. And I hope it is, because as complicated and dynamic the battlefield is right now in the Middle East, an Iranian nuclear weapon would be definitely a strategic game changer. And so that's something that can't be ignored. But I think that we in the United States have not had a robust strategy to counter the Iranian nuclear program. We have not deterred Iran. I don't think we have put forth a credible military threat. In many respects, Iran has been deterring the United States, but the United States has not been deterring Iran. And that's a huge problem, very dangerous one in my view, and it poses a whole range of security issues for Israel. But we definitely need a new policy. Right now, our policy is on hold, I would say, or disoriented because of the November 2024 presidential election. And the president of the United States wants to keep the Iran file off his desk, wants to avoid a crisis before the election. But that's not a sustainable strategy in the long run.
Yeah. If I understood correctly again, and maybe you can elaborate about the debate and the elections, you started speaking about it. But it looks like the race is over. You say within a week or several days, it looks like that's it. They can proceed with plans.
Well, no. I don't think it's over. I don't know. We're far from that, because that's only enough uranium for one nuclear weapon. You need a delivery vehicle, and you need to fashion the warhead on the delivery vehicle. So that could take some estimates put it for anymore from 1 year to 1.5 more years. So there is more time there. So I think it's important to kind of lay that out there. And I think that yeah. So I just want to. We should make that clear.
No, amazing. Good to know. That's what I knew. Now you surprised me a little bit. What about the elections? What do you think about Biden's strategy? It looks like you're not really a big supporter, I imagine. Or what do you think about the upcoming debate, about what you want to see from the US?
Well, I'm out of the business of trying to predict U.S. politics. I can't. It's very hard, I think. But I will say this: a commander-in-chief is supposed to make U.S. adversaries fear them. And my concern with the president, our president, President Biden, has been that Iran has not been deterred by the Biden administration effectively. And I think the impression and the messages and the signaling that we give off as a country is very important. Donald Trump understood the power and how to build U.S. leverage. And I think that the Islamic Republic feared him. And I think that was important. I have questions as to whether that's the case under the Biden administration. So I expect that potentially to be part of the debate because what's going on in the Middle East inevitably will come up. Usually in American elections, foreign policy doesn't play as much of a big role, but given all that's happening with Ukraine and the Middle East, I think that there will be some questions about it. Now, I'm a little skeptical we'll be able to have a really substantive debate in the presidential election, given the styles of the candidates. Okay. I think that I'm envisioning a shouting match and a lot of name calling. And given the time limits involved with these debates, I'm not confident we'll be able to have a lot of substance to many of these conversations, but they have to be had. This will be the first of, I think, 2 presidential debates. There'll be another one maybe September. So we'll see what happens. It will be very interesting. I will be watching, and I'm sure many Israelis will be as well.
Yes, I will for sure. Amazing. It's not an amazing conversation, but I'll try to go to sleep now. It's night in Israel. But basically, if I'll summarize the conversation, and if tell me what you think. But in general, the war in Gaza won't be over soon. In Lebanon, we're going to see increase in the violence and the attacks. I imagine I just read that the Houthis are promising to help Hezbollah and to send even soldiers or groups to Lebanon if something happens. Iran as well promised to help Lebanon, and probably Iraq, as you said. I imagine that Iraq and Syria won't stay out of it. And the US probably won't interfere. I'm not sure if you have anything to say about it. The US just said that they're not going to, if I'm not wrong, one of the commanders said, the high commander said that the US won't be able to help Israel as they helped with the last attacks from Iran.
Yeah, I saw those were comments from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I thought, no, that's okay. I think I was not that thrilled that he said that publicly. I don't think that was helpful. I think that just provides an opening for Iran and Hezbollah. I don't think it's productive to say that. Again, I think that these comments are in many respects aimed at deterring Israel more than Iran, and that's backwards in my view. So I think that U.S., in my view, if a full war breaks out between Israel and Hezbollah, I do believe the United States would support Israel. I do believe that, let's not forget that we have hundreds of thousands of Americans who are living in Israel, and the President of the United States, whether he's a Democrat or a Republican, has a constitutional responsibility to protect them. So we are going to want to make sure that Israelis have the material they need to defend themselves and to secure their land and their people. And that my hope is that the United States will be there for Israel militarily and politically.
Okay, good. We do have one good point from this conversation. Amazing, Jason. Yeah. It was a big pleasure, and thank you again for jumping on this call in such a short notice.
Thank you. It was great being with you. I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and thank you very much. Have a nice, rest of the day.
Yeah, you do too. Have a good evening, Asaf, and stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care.